The sun was slowly rising, but the city was already busy. Cars rushed down the road, people walked fast with bags in their hands, and shops were opening one by one. Everyone seemed to have a purpose, everyone seemed to know where they were going. But in the middle of this noise and movement, there was one girl who looked lost. She walked slowly on the street, her eyes searching here and there. Her clothes were old and faded. Her shoes were broken from the front, and every step looked painful. She carried no bag, no phone, no belongings, only a tired face and empty hands. She was searching, but not for food, not for clothes. She was searching for work. Her stomach growled loudly, but she ignored it. She had learned to live with hunger. She had not eaten properly for 2 days. Still, she walked with hope in her heart, knocking on shop doors, asking strangers if they needed help. "Sir, do you need someone to clean? I can wash dishes, I can sweep floors," she asked one man outside a restaurant. The man shook his head without even looking at her. "No, go away. We don't need beggars." Her face turned red with shame. She was not begging. She only wanted work. But to others, she looked like a beggar. She moved to another shop. A lady was arranging clothes in a small boutique. "Madam, do you need someone to help you? I can fold clothes, I can clean the floor." The lady looked at her from head to toe. Her eyes were cold. "We don't hire people like you. Leave before my customers come." The girl's heart sank. She turned away quickly before her tears could fall. She did not want people to see her cry. As she walked further down the street, her legs grew weak. She found a small bench on the side of the road and sat down. Her eyes looked at the ground, empty and tired. Around her, people were laughing, eating, and shopping. But she felt invisible, like she didn't belong to this world. She remembered her mother's words, spoken years ago when life was still kind: "No matter how hard life becomes, never lose your honesty. Work hard, and someday, the world will notice you." Those words gave her strength, but at this moment, even honesty felt useless. Who would notice her now? Her stomach growled again, louder this time. She pressed her hands against it, whispering to herself, "Just hold on, maybe today, something will change." She stood up again and continued walking. She asked at a tea stall, then at a bookstore, then at a fruit shop. But every door closed before she could even explain. Some ignored her, some laughed at her, some even scolded her. Still, she did not give up. The sky slowly turned brighter. The street grew busier. Cars honked loudly, children ran with their school bags, vendors shouted prices of vegetables. In all this noise, the girl's small, soft voice kept asking the same question: "Do you need someone to work?" But no one listened. After hours of rejection, she finally stopped near a big crossing. She leaned against a wall, breathing heavily. Her eyes looked at the people rushing by, men in suits, women with shining handbags, children eating ice cream. She wondered if her life would ever look like theirs. And then, something caught her eye. On the ground, near the corner of the street, she noticed a small black object. At first, she thought it was just trash, maybe an old purse. But when she moved closer, her eyes widened. It was a wallet. She bent down and picked it up carefully. It felt heavy in her hands. She opened it slowly, and her breath caught in her throat. Inside, she saw several credit cards, a shiny golden card with a name on it, and bundles of crisp cash. She counted quickly. There was enough money to feed her for months. Her hands trembled. For a moment, the world around her disappeared. All she could see was the wallet. All she could feel was the beating of her heart. Her mind started racing. If I keep this, I can finally eat. I can rent a small room. I can buy clothes, shoes. Nobody will ever know. But then, her mother's voice echoed again in her memory: "No matter how hungry you are, never take what is not yours." Her eyes filled with tears. She looked up at the sky, as if searching for an answer. Should she keep the wallet? Should she walk away and pretend she never found it? Or should she risk everything and try to return it? She looked again at the golden card. The name on it was clear, bold, and powerful. It belonged to a man she had heard of before. A man who lived in a mansion. A man who was known as one of the richest businessmen in the city. Her lips whispered slowly, "This belongs to a millionaire." The girl stood frozen on the street, holding the wallet close to her chest. Around her, people moved as if nothing had changed. But for her, everything had changed. Her empty hands were no longer empty. Her future was now tied to this wallet. She did not know yet if it would bring her happiness or pain. But one thing was certain, her life would never be the same again. And this was just the beginning. The wallet felt heavy in her hands, heavier than any object she had ever held before. Not because of its size, but because of what it carried: hope, temptation, and a dangerous choice. She stood frozen on the corner of the busy street. People rushed past her, bumping her shoulders, brushing her arms, but no one noticed the storm that was rising inside her. Her eyes fell on the thick bundle of cash inside. Her stomach growled again, loud and painful, reminding her of the hunger that had followed her for days. The thought came again: if I take just a little, no one will ever know. It will save me. Her fingers touched the crisp notes, but she quickly pulled her hand back. A battle was going on inside her heart. On one side was her hunger, her weakness, her desperate need. On the other side was her honesty, her mother's words, and the fear of doing wrong. Her lips whispered softly, "What should I do?" She looked around. Across the street, she saw a group of men watching her. Their eyes narrowed when they noticed the wallet. One of them shouted, "Hey girl, what's in your hand? Did you steal that?" Her heart jumped in fear. She quickly pressed the wallet against her chest and ran. She did not want to be accused of something she had not done. Her feet moved fast, her broken shoes hitting the ground, until she reached a quiet alley. Leaning against a wall, she opened the wallet again. Inside, she noticed an ID card. The name was bold and powerful, the same name she had whispered earlier. It was the name of a man she had only seen in newspapers, a man who owned companies, cars, and mansions. She stared at the photo on the ID. The man looked strict, serious, and proud. The thought struck her: why would someone like him ever care if I returned his wallet? He's a millionaire. This money means nothing to him. But for me, it means life or death. Her mind whispered again, "Keep it. No one will know. The streets are filled with people. Who will believe you found it honestly?" But then another voice rose inside her, her mother's voice. "Never touch what is not yours. Even if the world calls you a fool, honesty will protect you one day." Tears filled her eyes. She closed the wallet and held it tightly. She made her decision. "I will return it," she whispered. Her heart beat faster with fear. She knew it would not be easy. A poor girl like her, walking to the gates of a millionaire's mansion, holding his lost wallet, who would believe her? People would laugh. Guards would push her away. Maybe they would even call her a thief. But still, she walked. She asked around for the address written on the ID. Some people laughed at her when she mentioned the millionaire's name. "Why would someone like you go there?" one man mocked. Another woman warned her, "Be careful. Rich people never trust the poor. If you go there, they might say you stole it." Her steps slowed for a moment. Doubt entered her heart again. What if they really think I'm a thief? What if they call the police? But then, she remembered the way the millionaire's face looked in the ID card. Proud, strong, almost unkind. A man like him would surely want his wallet back. Maybe, just maybe, he would believe her. Her legs trembled as she reached the road that led to his mansion. She had never seen houses this big before. The gate was taller than anything she had ever stood beside, black and shiny with gold edges. Security guards in uniforms stood with serious faces, watching every passerby. Her courage began to melt. She almost turned back, but then she felt the wallet in her hands again. She had come too far to give up now. She took a deep breath and walked towards the gate. "Stop!" one guard shouted, stepping forward. His sharp eyes scanned her torn clothes, her weak frame, her dirty shoes. "What do you want here?" Her voice shook, but she tried to stay strong. I found this wallet. It belongs to your boss." She held it out with both hands. The guard's eyes widened for a moment, then narrowed suspiciously. "Where did you get this? Did you steal it?" "No," she cried quickly. "I found it on the street. I just want to return it." The second guard laughed harshly. Do you think we're fools? A poor girl like you, holding our boss's wallet? You probably took the money and now you're making excuses. Her chest tightened. Please, I didn't steal. Everything is inside. I swear. Her voice broke, but she didn't let go of the wallet. The guards looked at each other, whispering. One of them said, "We should call the police." Fear rushed through her veins, but she stood her ground. Call anyone you want. Just give this wallet back to its owner. I don't want trouble. I only want to do the right thing. Her honesty, her trembling voice, and the tears in her eyes made the guards hesitate. Finally, one of them said, "Fine. Wait here." He walked inside the mansion with the wallet, leaving her outside the gate. She stood silently, her heart pounding, her legs weak. People walking by stared at her, whispering, pointing fingers. Minutes felt like hours. Then, suddenly, the gate opened again. The guard returned. Behind him was a tall figure, dressed in a sharp suit, his face the same as the one on the ID card. The millionaire himself had come out. His eyes went straight to the girl. The air around her grew heavy. She held her breath, not knowing what would happen next. Would he believe her? Or would he destroy her life forever? The gate slowly opened wider, and the millionaire stepped forward. He was tall, dressed in a dark suit that looked more expensive than anything the girl had ever touched. His shoes shined like mirrors, his hair was neat, and his face carried the look of a man used to power. The girl froze. Her hands shook slightly as she held the wallet close to her chest. She had never stood so near to someone so rich, so important. The busy street behind her went silent in her mind. At that moment, there was only him and her. The millionaire's sharp eyes studied her. From her torn clothes, her broken shoes, to the nervous way she held the wallet. Finally, his deep voice broke the silence. "You," he said, pointing at the wallet. "Where did you get that?" Her throat felt dry, but she forced herself to speak. I found it. On the street. Near the crossing." The guards shifted uncomfortably, still eyeing her with suspicion. The millionaire took a step closer, his gaze hard and unreadable. "And you brought it here? Without taking anything?" She nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. Everything is inside." He held out his hand. Her fingers trembled as she placed the wallet in his palm. For a moment, their hands almost touched. She felt a strange weight leave her body, the weight of temptation, the weight of fear. The millionaire opened the wallet, his eyes scanning through the money, the cards, the ID. His jaw tightened slightly. Nothing was missing. Every note was there, untouched. He closed it with a snap and looked at her again. "Why?" he asked suddenly. She blinked, confused. "Why, what? Why didn't you keep it?" His voice was sharp, almost accusing. "Do you know how much money is in here? Enough to feed you for months. Why didn't you take it?" His words cut into her like a knife. She looked down, ashamed, her voice trembling. "Because it's not mine. My mother taught me, no matter how hungry, no matter how poor, never take what belongs to others." There was silence. The guards exchanged glances. The millionaire kept staring at her, his face hard, unreadable. For a moment, she thought he was angry. Maybe he didn't believe her. Maybe he would call her a liar. Tears began to blur her vision, but she held them back. She whispered, almost to herself, "I only wanted to do the right thing." Something flickered in the millionaire's eyes. His expression softened for just a second, but then it disappeared, replaced by the same cold mask. He turned away, walking a few steps toward the gate, then stopped. "What do you do?" he asked without looking at her. Her heart raced. I'm looking for work. Any work. Cleaning, washing dishes, anything." He finally turned back, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Work." She nodded. "Yes, sir. Please. I don't want charity. I only need a chance." The millionaire's lips pressed together. He studied her face again, the tired eyes, the thin frame, the quiet strength. Something about her reminded him of a past he rarely spoke of, a time before his wealth, when life had been cruel to him too. But he didn't show it. Instead, he spoke firmly. If you truly want work, come here tomorrow morning. But be ready. It will not be easy. Her breath caught. She wasn't sure if she had heard correctly. Tomorrow, here. Yes. His tone left no room for argument. He slipped the wallet into his pocket and signaled to the guards. Let her go for now. The guards looked surprised but obeyed. One of them stepped aside, giving her a path to leave. She stood frozen for a moment, her heart pounding. Then she whispered softly, "Thank you, sir," and turned to walk away. Her legs felt weak, but inside her chest, a small flame of hope began to rise. After days of rejection, after endless humiliation, someone had finally given her a chance. But as she walked down the street, doubts crept in. His words echoed in her mind, "Be ready. It will not be easy." What kind of work would he give her? Was he testing her? Or was this a trap? She reached the small bench where she had sat earlier that day. The city was now quieter, the sun slowly dipping down. She sat with her head in her hands, trying to understand what had just happened. For the first time in days, her tears fell freely. Not just from sadness, but from relief, from fear, from the unknown future that now stood in front of her. Tomorrow would decide everything. Tomorrow, she would step inside the millionaire's world. And tomorrow, she would learn if honesty could truly change her fate. The night before had been long and restless. She lay on a cold wooden bench under the open sky, her thin shawl failing to protect her from the wind. Sleep came in short pieces, broken by hunger and fear. Each time her eyes closed, she saw the millionaire's face, his sharp eyes, his cold voice. If you truly want work, come tomorrow. But be ready. It will not be easy. Those words repeated in her mind again and again. She didn't know what kind of test awaited her, but she knew she had no choice. As the first rays of morning sun touched the city, she stood up, brushed the dust from her clothes, and began walking towards the mansion. Her heart pounded faster with every step. The black gates looked even taller in the daylight. The same guards stood there, watching her with suspicion. When they saw her approach, one of them smirked. So, the poor girl really came back. The other guard called inside through a small speaker. Moments later, the gate opened slowly. "Go in," one said. She stepped through the gates, her eyes widening as she entered the world of the millionaire. The garden alone looked bigger than the street where she had spent the night. Green grass stretched as far as she could see, trimmed perfectly. Fountains sprayed clear water into the air. Expensive cars stood shining in the driveway. For a moment, she forgot to breathe. Everything looked like a dream, but she reminded herself it wasn't her dream. She was here to work. The millionaire appeared on the porch, dressed again in his dark suit, holding a cup of coffee. His eyes fell on her, steady and cold. "You came." She lowered her head respectfully. "Yes, sir." He set his cup aside. "Then let's see if your honesty matches your strength." With a small wave of his hand, another man appeared, the mansion's head servant. He carried a long list in his hand. The millionaire gave him a nod and walked back inside, leaving her in the servant's care. The servant looked at her with no kindness. "Follow me." Her test had begun. The first task was in the garden. She was given a broom taller than herself and told to sweep the wide marble path. The sun was already hot, and sweat rolled down her forehead as she pushed the broom back and forth. The path never seemed to end. Other workers passed by, laughing at her quietly. One whispered to another, "She won't last an hour." But she kept sweeping, even when her arms burned, even when her back ached. She didn't complain. When the path was finally clean, the servant called her again. "Now wash the cars." Her eyes widened. There were 5 cars lined up, each one shining like glass. She had never touched such cars in her life, and now she had to wash them. She filled a bucket with water, dipped a cloth, and began wiping carefully. The metal reflected her tired face back at her, reminding her of how small she looked in this world. Hours passed. Her hands grew sore, her fingers raw from scrubbing. Still, she continued. The servant returned, his expression unreadable. Now the kitchen. Inside, she found piles of dirty dishes stacked high. Steam filled the air, and the smell of old food made her stomach twist. She rolled up her sleeves and began washing. The hot water stung her skin, but she kept going, dish after dish, plate after plate. One cook chuckled. "Why work so hard? The boss is only testing you. He'll throw you out after today." Her lips trembled, but she stayed silent. She didn't want to believe those words. By evening, her body felt heavy, her arms weak, her clothes soaked with sweat and water. But when the servant called her again, she wiped her face and stood tall. The final task was the hardest. She was sent to the mansion's guest hall to serve tea to visitors. Her heart pounded as she carried the silver tray. The guests were wealthy men and women, dressed in fine clothes, their perfume filling the air. Their eyes turned to her, eyes filled with curiosity, some with pity, others with disgust. One lady whispered loudly enough for her to hear, "Where did the boss find this girl? She looks like she came from the street." The words cut deep, but she kept walking, placing each cup carefully without spilling. Her hands trembled, but not a single drop fell. When the tray was empty, she stepped back quietly, keeping her head down. She didn't want to cause trouble. At last, the servant signaled for her to leave. Exhausted, she returned to the garden where she had started. The sun was setting now, painting the sky orange and red. The millionaire stood waiting, his arms crossed. He looked at her silently for a long moment. Her clothes were dirty, her face pale, her hands red from labor. But her eyes, though tired, still carried determination. Finally, he spoke. "So, you survived the day?" She swallowed hard. I did what I could, sir." A faint smile almost touched his lips, but it disappeared quickly. "Good. Then we will see if you can survive tomorrow as well." Her heart sank. This was not the end. It was only the beginning of something bigger, something harder. As she left the mansion gates that night, her body weak but her spirit still burning, one thought echoed in her mind. "This is only a test, but what is he truly testing me for?" The next morning, she returned to the mansion with sore arms and aching legs. Her body begged her to rest, but her heart pushed her forward. She had no home, no food, no safety, only this chance. The guards raised their brows when they saw her. One muttered, "She came back again? Amazing." The servant led her inside without a word. Once again, the list of chores was endless. She swept, scrubbed, carried heavy buckets, and worked under the hot sun. Her hands turned rough, her skin burned, but still she refused to stop. The other workers whispered behind her back, "She is wasting her time. The boss doesn't trust anyone. He will throw her out soon." At first, she ignored them. But later that day, when she was cleaning the corner of the kitchen, she overheard two maids talking in low voices. "Why is the boss making her work like this?" one asked. The other laughed softly. "Don't you know? He doesn't believe in poor people. He thinks they are all liars. He is testing her. Once he's bored, he'll send her away." The words cut through her heart like a knife. She froze, the broom in her hand slipping slightly. So this was all just a test. Not a job, not a chance, just a cruel game? Her chest tightened. Tears burned her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away before anyone could see. That evening, when the mansion grew quiet, the millionaire appeared again. His tall figure filled the garden where she had just finished her last task of the day. He looked at her closely. She stood with her hands raw and blistered, her clothes wet with sweat, her face pale with exhaustion. Still, she kept her head up, refusing to bend. "You came again," he said, his voice calm. "Yes, sir," she whispered. He studied her for a long moment, then asked, "Why do you continue? Do you not hear what the others say? Do you not feel that I am testing you?" Her heart skipped. So he knew. He knew what people were saying. She swallowed hard, her voice breaking but strong enough to reach him. "Maybe you are testing me, sir. Maybe you will throw me out tomorrow. But I cannot stop. This is the only chance I have. If I give up, then I have nothing left." The air grew heavy between them. The millionaire's face softened for just a second, but then the mask of coldness returned. "Go home," he said sharply. "Rest. Come again tomorrow." She bowed slightly and left, but her heart was heavier than before. That night, she sat alone on the same street bench where she had first found the wallet. The city lights flickered around her, but she felt lost in darkness. Was I wrong to trust him? Was I foolish to believe this could change my life? Her stomach growled again, reminding her she hadn't eaten. She hugged her knees and closed her eyes, whispering her mother's words to herself, "Work hard, stay honest, someday the world will notice." But she wondered if that day would ever come. The next morning, she returned once more. Her steps were slower, but her spirit still refused to break. This time, the servant gave her a new task, polishing the marble floor of the grand hall. The floor stretched wide like a mirror, and she was given nothing but a small cloth and a bucket of water. Hours passed as she worked on her knees, scrubbing every corner. Her hands bled, her back bent painfully, but she kept going. As the sun lowered, the millionaire entered the hall quietly. She didn't see him at first, but he watched her from the doorway. There she was, a poor girl with torn clothes, scrubbing the floor of his mansion like her life depended on it. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for pity. She only worked, her face shining with sweat, her lips whispering prayers to keep her strength alive. For a long moment, the millionaire said nothing. But deep inside him, something stirred. A memory of his own past. Long ago, before the wealth, before the power, he too had been poor. He too had been mocked, rejected, and pushed down by those who thought he had no worth. He had worked endlessly, hungry and alone, to climb out of that pit. And now, looking at this girl, he felt like he was looking at his younger self. His eyes softened, but he quickly turned away before she could see. He didn't want her to know what he was thinking. Not yet. That night, after she had finished her work, the servant gave her an unexpected message. "The boss wants to see you. In his office." Her heart jumped. She wiped her hands on her dress, nervous and scared. Why did he want to see her alone? She followed the servant down the long hallway, her footsteps echoing against the marble floor. The door to the office was large and heavy. The servant pushed it open and left her standing there. The millionaire sat behind a wooden desk, papers spread before him. His eyes lifted slowly, meeting hers. "Come in," he said. She stepped inside, her hands shaking. The door closed behind her with a loud thud. The room was silent, the air heavy. She stood in front of him, waiting, her heart pounding so loud she could hear nothing else. The millionaire leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving hers. Finally, he spoke in a calm, deep voice. "It's time I tell you the truth." The office was quiet, too quiet. The sound of the city could not reach here, and even her own breathing felt too loud in the heavy silence. The millionaire leaned back in his chair, his sharp eyes fixed on her. She stood trembling, her fingers twisting together nervously. She did not know if he was about to praise her, punish her, or throw her out. Finally, he spoke. "You must be wondering why I kept you here, making you work like this, testing you again and again." She lowered her eyes. "Yes, sir. I only wanted work. But if I failed you, then I am sorry." His brow furrowed. "Failed me?" He leaned forward, his voice deeper. "No. You have not failed. You have done something very few would do. You returned my wallet, untouched. You faced hunger, yet you refused to steal. You were mocked, insulted, and pushed down, yet you stood tall. Do you know how rare that is?" Her lips parted in shock. She had expected anger, not these words. He continued, his voice softer now, almost thoughtful. "When I saw you that first day, holding my wallet, I doubted you. I thought you were just another trickster, another poor person trying to fool the rich. That is why I tested you. I wanted to see if you would bend, if you would give up. But you didn't." Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "I only did what I thought was right. I have nothing, sir, only honesty." The millionaire stood slowly from his chair. He walked to the window, his back facing her. His voice dropped lower, filled with something she had not heard before, pain. "You remind me of myself," he said. "Before all of this." He gestured to the mansion outside, the world of wealth and power. "People only see the man I am now, but they forget the boy I once was. I grew up with nothing. No food, no roof, no one to believe in me. I worked day and night, hungry, broken, mocked by others. The world was cruel to me, just as it has been cruel to you. He turned then, his eyes not cold anymore but shining with memory. I made a promise to myself that if I ever found someone honest, someone unbroken by pain, I would help them. You are that person. Her breath caught. She could not believe what she was hearing. The millionaire walked closer, standing just a step away. You don't need to scrub floors anymore. You don't need to beg for work. From today, you will work in my company. Not as a servant, but as a staff member. I will give you training, I will give you a salary, and I will give you a chance to build your life again. Her knees almost gave way. She covered her mouth with her trembling hands, tears spilling down her cheeks. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say nothing, he replied gently. Just promise me that you will keep this honesty, no matter how high you rise. That is worth more than all the money in the world. She nodded quickly, her tears falling like rain. I promise, sir. I promise. That night, as she stepped out of the mansion, the street looked different. The same road where she had once searched hopelessly for work now felt like the beginning of a new journey. The same bench where she had cried in hunger now seemed like a distant memory. She clutched a small envelope in her hand, her first payment, more money than she had ever held before. But what made her heart race was not the money. It was the hope. The belief that her life had finally changed. She looked up at the night sky, whispering softly, "Thank you, Mama, your words saved me. Honesty saved me." And somewhere behind the mansion's tall windows, the millionaire watched her go, a faint smile touching his lips. For the first time in years, he felt peace. He had tested her, but in truth, she had tested him too. She had reminded him of the boy he once was, the boy who refused to break. The story of a poor girl and a lost wallet had ended, but in reality, it was only the beginning of a new life, one built not on luck, not on lies, but on honesty and courage.